Sorry, I had to make this a two-part. Um, the last thing I said was blacks were talking about black people, African Americans, whatever. I'm not trying to offend anybody, but I'm just talking naturally. Blacks were oppressed in order to create massive businesses and farms that later run basically the entire country. The Civil War happened, and roughly 600,000 people died. The AIDS epidemic happened in the 70s. Roughly 700,000 people have died since HIV. Christians killed around 1.7 million people in the Crusades alone for God. Then it was coronavirus. In the US alone, over 1 million people have died from COVID. I started writing these facts probably 5 or 6 months ago. Who knows? Probably more at this point. What does this tell me? It tells me a lot of things personally. It tells me that for every action is an equal and opposite reaction. Before every time of peace, there was a time of millions dying and an opposing force giving it a name and covering it up at the same time. The resource called America was, this is how I think about things. The resource called America was apparently robbed from some other people. Then some other people enslaved some people in order to mass produce food, textiles, all sorts of mills. Influence and persuasion is the new whip. Like you can't go whip somebody and tell them what to do, but with enough intelligence and persuasion, you can whip them and they don't even know they're getting whipped. You see what I'm saying? They're making moves for you without even realizing it. All I'm trying to say is Die Hard was a Christmas movie. But anyways, that was a joke. What I'm trying to get at is I was reading a book and I was going through the chronological order of what I feel like persuasion is and what they do to people. Like what persuasion does to people and how it affects people, and they don't even realize it. But this is a timeline, and I want to point out. I don't know if I'm saying his name right. It's Noam Chomsky. He's an American psycholinguist. He's into psychology. He's into languages. Okay. He wrote a book called The Syntactic Structure, and the brain is born programmed to learn language. And this was a revolutionary idea that all languages share a universal grammar that lies below all of the various grammars. Persuasion controls everything. Chronology of major events concerning persuasion. 4.6 billion BC, origin of Earth. 50,000 BC, Homo sapiens emerged as conscious observers of nature. 10,000 BC, Neolithic revolution transition from hunting and gathering to farming and domestication. This is being applied to the internet. This is being applied to the ads you're watching based upon your 16 personality types, because only 16 exist. Unless you're a crazy person. Adaptation to circumstances creates multiple personalities in people. But anyway, 10,000 BC, Neolithic revolution transition from hunting and gathering to farming and domestication applied to the internet. 9,000 BC, Mayans make astronomical inscriptions. They notice the stars. 8,000 BC, fire clay was used to mark agricultural products. 6,000 BC, the rise of great ancient civilizations like Mesopotamia begat institutions to teach science and technology to support infrastructure. 4,000 BC, the Egyptian calendar is established. 3,500 BC, and in the next 500 years, the earliest illustration of cell dates, Assyrians develop a sewer network, clay tokens become numerals, the Sumerians build dams, canals, statues, and pyramids. The building of Stonehenge is begun in Salisbury. I'm not just listing facts. What I'm trying to say is think about how long people were smart. Think about how long people's been adapting and creating things. Think about how long after something is discovered, how much it can be manipulated, created, and enthralled. Think about those things. 2300 BC, the oldest surviving map of a city is carved. 1700 BC, the people of Syria, Palestine developed the first real alphabet. 1500 BC, Greece's many wars with its regional rivals lead to the development of new military technology. It's 1500 BC. I mean, we have satellites now that can just freaking beam people to sleep, right? 1475, Egyptian pharaoh Thutmose III erects an obelisk called Cleopatra's Needle. 1400 BC, Almanac develops the beginnings of a written language in that area where Mayans and the Zapotecs eventually adopted the language. 720 BC, Chinese record keeping about solar eclipses began. 700 BC, Persians adopt cuneiform. 609 BC, the first circumnavigation of Africa is begun by the order of Egyptian pharaoh Necho II. 550 BC, Anaximander, pretty sure of Rome, draws the first known map of inhabited Earth and puts the map on a cylinder to show that the Earth is curved. 500 BC, it's a big one. Silver coins are introduced for the first time at Aegina and Corinth as economy based on money begins to develop. 430 BC, the plague of Athens is caused by an unknown infectious agent. 1/3 of the population dies. 300 BC, I don't know if I'm saying his name right. Dicaris, a Greek geographer, created a line of latitude. You know, for the globe. 20 BC, Strabo, a Greek astronomer, makes a map of the known world and suggests the existence of an unknown continents. All these people were like questioning things and creating things, okay? Year 150. Ptolemy writes the 8-volume Geographia, which contains a world map as well as a regional map. This was the map for 13 centuries. This is why I drink. We're told America is the freest country. Freedom, freedom, freedom. Our vehicle is taxed. Okay? Our work is taxed as our paycheck comes in. We're taxed whenever we buy anything except food. Your internet is taxed. Your light bill is taxed. Everything is taxed, okay? Remember the Boston Tea Party? Well, I think the same crap was going on. Like, let me go back. Hang on a second. What I'm trying to go back to is I want you to use some ambiguity. Think in multiple ways. When I said blacks were oppressed in order to create massive businesses and farms and later run basically the entire country, well, I was talking about persuasion's the new whip, but people don't have a high enough IQ to realize that they're being whipped, and they're like, it's like water down a trough. Like, they're just going with the flow. When the banks are running out of money and they have to go up, to our government to ask for more money, and then inflation begins. When this inflation is beginning, nobody's living happy, and it's possibly a recession or that leads to depression. What if I said that I thought that these communistic societies already existed in society, in which basically you get an hourly rate, you get an illusion of freedom, but what if this company that's being created get something took off the top, because everything's ridiculously priced anyway. But what if something comes off the top for these specific organizations, and that thing that's coming off the top is going back to the banks, to the government and stuff, to keep us from allowing inflation to happen? What if we were releasing prisoners, right? Goodwill, in order to generate these communistic things in small places to keep inflation down, to give them a sense of purpose, to give them freedom back? What if the same thing could be applied to how gangs run?